August 2023. A flash flood warning pops up for a major metro area. And here's the thing, within about a minute and a half, a ride-sharing platform has already shifted prices, redirected drivers away from risky streets, and sent riders a heads-up with alternate ways to get home. Now picture a traditional taxi dispatch in that same moment. They're still refreshing the weather page, still figuring out what's happening. Fast forward to March 2024. A semiconductor shortage is starting to send tiny tremors through supplier messages. One automaker catches the first signals, matches them against their production plan, and locks in alternate sourcing within 4 hours. Their competitor? They find out 3 days later through a headline. By then, the backup supply has been snapped up. And then September 2025. A consumer brand gets hit by a social media firestorm. In under 20 minutes, their team traces the origin, estimates where the sentiment is headed, drafts 3 response paths with likely outcomes, and gets a recommended play to the CMO. The brand next door is still waiting for a weekly report to land in someone's inbox. These aren't stories about who has more data. Everyone has data. These are stories about speed. About shrinking the gap between signal and response until speed itself becomes the advantage. In some industries, real-time intelligence isn't a nice-to-have. It's the difference between leading and following, between catching the wave and watching it pass. I'm Nakel Nakima, and this is the Intelligence Edge. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're bringing together 4 people who've actually built and operated real-time intelligence systems, where latency isn't measured in days, it's measured in seconds or minutes. Dr. Lian Zhou is an AI transformation advisor across Asia-Pacific markets where speed is not optional. Maria Alvarez designs data governance for environments where decisions are made too quickly for traditional approvals. Jonas Richter focuses on ethics and compliance, especially when algorithms act instantly on people's lives. And Kwame Mensah architects real-time intelligence systems across Africa, from mobile payments to agriculture and logistics. Let's start by getting crisp on language, because people throw the phrase real-time intelligence around like it means one thing. Kwame, if you had to define it without buzzwords, what is it?
I define real-time intelligence as decision-relevant information that arrives quickly enough to influence the decision it's meant to shape. And I'm very intentional about that phrase quickly enough, because real-time is relative to the decision cycle. For a trading algorithm, quickly enough could mean microseconds. For a supply chain adjustment, it might be hours. For marketing optimization, it could mean within the same day. Technically, it means you're continuously processing data as it arrives, rather than waiting for a batch job overnight or a weekly report. But strategically, the real definition is this: it's real-time when the speed of insight creates an advantage that slower competitors can't easily match.
So it's not a stopwatch definition, it's a competitive definition. That's important. Dr. Zhou, please help us pinpoint the moment when speed becomes more than operational convenience and becomes strategy. When does it matter?
Speed matters strategically when at least one of 3 conditions is true. First, the opportunity is perishable. There's a narrow window. A customer is browsing and will bounce in seconds. A supply disruption creates a few hours to secure alternatives. A market anomaly lasts minutes. If you can't decide inside the window, the value disappears. Second, the market has already agreed on what fast enough looks like. In ride-sharing, trading, and digital advertising, real-time response is table stakes. If competitors are acting in seconds and you're acting in hours, you're not really competing. Third, marginal speed gains compound. Maybe no single decision is life or death in the moment, but if you make thousands of slightly faster decisions, their cumulative effect becomes meaningful. Think about optimizing pricing on an hourly basis rather than daily across millions of transactions. And when none of these conditions exist, pursuing real-time can be wasteful. Speed for its own sake is vanity.
Speed for its own sake is vanity. I want listeners to sit with that, because it's easy to fall in love with the idea of sub-second dashboards. Maria, if speed means decisions happen before humans can blink, what does that do to governance? Because most governance models assume there's time.
That's exactly the problem. Traditional governance assumes humans can review before execution. You have sign-offs, committees, approvals, and checkpoints. Real-time systems reverse that. The system decides and acts immediately. If you insist on reviewing every decision, you lose the speed advantage entirely. So governance has to shift from governance by review to governance by design. Instead of approving individual decisions, you approve the rules and constraints that shape decisions. You validate system behavior over time, not every single output in the moment. That shift makes people uncomfortable, because it feels like giving up control. But the truth is, the only way to have both speed and control is to design control into the system.
Jonas, in that world, where the system moves first and people reflect later, what changes ethically?
Two things become much more urgent. First, the window for human intervention shrinks dramatically. There's no pause to ask, should we do this? That means ethical judgment has to be baked into the design, not applied at decision time. Second, you get cascading consequences at speed. A small error or a bias pattern can scale into a large harm before anyone notices. Finance has flash crashes. Social platforms have viral misinformation loops. Automated decisions can compound discrimination quickly. So paradoxically, real-time requires more ethical rigor upfront, not less, because there's no time to course correct in the moment.
Okay. So we have the setup. Real-time isn't universal, governance has to be designed differently, and ethical stakes intensify. Now let's map the landscape. Dr. Zhou, you talk about a speed spectrum. Walk us through it in a way leaders can actually use.
I use 4 tiers. Tier 1 is microseconds to milliseconds. Algorithmic trading, programmatic ads, network routing. Humans aren't making individual calls. Tier 2 is seconds to minutes. Fraud detection, dynamic pricing, operational anomaly response. The system acts automatically, and humans monitor. Tier 3 is hours to same day. Supply chain adjustments, customer service escalation, marketing optimization. Humans still decide, but the cycle is compressed. Tier 4 is daily to weekly. Strategic planning, resource allocation, policy decisions. Here, speed matters less than decision quality. Most organizations live mainly in tiers 3 and 4. They benefit from faster data, but they don't need tier 1 infrastructure. A common mistake is building for microseconds when your organization only makes decisions every Tuesday meeting.
Kwame, can you give those tiers some texture? What do they look like on the ground?
Sure. Tier 1 example, mobile payment fraud detection. A transaction comes in and the customer is waiting. In tens of milliseconds you need to validate identity, check patterns, assess merchant risk, score fraud probability, approve or decline. If your system takes half a second or 2 seconds, it sounds small, but it's the difference between a payment method people trust and one merchants no longer want to accept. Tier 2, ride-sharing surge pricing. A concert ends, weather shifts, rush hour hits. Within a minute, prices and incentives need to rebalance across thousands of zones. If you update slowly, the market clears poorly and you lose drivers and riders. Tier 3, agricultural supply chains reacting to weather. If satellite or forecast data shows drought forming, procurement might have a few hours to evaluate impact and start securing alternatives. You don't need millisecond decisions, but you can't operate on weekly cycles. Tier 4, market entry strategy. Signals about competitor expansion matter, but decisions are made on quarterly timelines. Real-time data can inform it, but the decision itself shouldn't be rushed.
Maria, if we accept those tiers, governance can't be one size fits all. How does governance change across them?
Governance has to match the tier. For Tier 1, it becomes algorithmic certification. You test and approve the logic before deployment, and you monitor aggregate behavior afterward. You're not reviewing decisions in flight. Tier 2 often uses threshold-based escalation. The system handles routine cases automatically, but anything unusual triggers human review. Governance defines what counts as unusual. Tier 3 looks more like accelerated human governance. The same principles apply, but the rituals are compressed: daily stand-ups instead of weekly committees, pre-authorized decision domains instead of long approval chains. Tier 4 can use traditional governance because the decision cycle allows it. The failure is mismatch. If you apply Tier 4 governance to Tier 1 decisions, you kill speed. If you apply Tier 1 governance to Tier 4 decisions, you invite reckless choices.
Jonas, I want to press on something you hinted at earlier. Are there decisions that shouldn't be fully automated, even if there's competitive pressure to do it faster?
Yes, and I'd group them into 3 categories. First, decisions with irreversible consequences. Firing someone, denying an essential service, or anything tied to the justice system. The downside risk is too high. Second, decisions involving fundamental rights. Housing, healthcare access, credit tied to basic needs. Context matters, and algorithms can't reliably capture all of it. Third, decisions affecting vulnerable populations. Children, elderly people, disabled individuals. The power imbalance demands accountable human judgment. And to be clear, involving humans doesn't have to mean slowing everything to a crawl. You can automate routine cases and surgically route exceptions to humans. But saying our competitors do it is not a moral justification for crossing certain lines.
So, the design challenge is triage: what's routine enough for automation, what's exceptional enough for human oversight. Now, let's move into how this is actually built. Kwame, if a leader asked you, what does a real-time intelligence stack look like, what would you tell them?
I'd describe 5 layers. Layer 1 is data ingestion. You capture signals as they happen. Instead of batch file transfers, you rely on event streams and APIs pushing data continuously. The metric here is ingestion latency, how long it takes between an event occurring and it becoming available. Layer 2 is stream processing. You transform and enrich in motion, before the data even lands in storage. You might aggregate, detect patterns, attach context. The challenge is doing that without bottlenecking, because events keep coming. Layer 3 is real-time analytics. That can be rule evaluation or machine learning inference. But models have to be served with low latency. A brilliant model that takes half a second might be unusable for Tier 1. Layer 4 is decision execution. You act, block a transaction, change a price, reroute a driver, alert a human. This has to integrate with operational systems, and it has to be reliable, with clear fallback behavior if the system degrades. Layer 5 is monitoring and feedback. You observe the system in real time, performance, drift, anomalies, and outcomes. Because if your monitoring is a nightly batch report, you'll discover problems after they've already multiplied.
What I'm hearing is that a real-time system becomes a living organism. It senses, processes, acts, and self-observes. Dr. Zhou, beyond the tech, what organizational muscle do you need? Because you can buy tools, but you can't buy readiness.
3 capabilities matter. First is operational discipline. Real-time doesn't respect business hours. You need monitoring and response that functions at 3 a.m. on a weekend. Second is decision modeling expertise. Real-time means you are encoding decision logic into software. You need people who can translate business judgment into rules and models, anticipate edge cases, and understand trade-offs. You often need hybrids, people who can think like operators and like data scientists. Third is rapid iteration. Real-time systems encounter novelty constantly. You need the ability to observe what's happening, diagnose issues, and deploy improvements quickly and safely. That requires strong operational engineering, automated testing, and change processes built for speed without chaos.
Maria, listeners might hear governance and think, that's going to slow us down. How do you embed governance without turning real-time into paperwork?
By embedding it into the architecture rather than layering it on the outside. At ingestion, you do real-time data quality checks. If incoming data is malformed, you reject it immediately. In processing, you maintain audit trails of transformations so you can reconstruct what happened. In analytics, you track model versions and link outputs to the specific logic that produced them. In execution, you log decisions. What was decided, what data was available, which rules applied. And in monitoring, you don't just track uptime and latency, you track compliance and behavior patterns, fairness indicators, anomaly patterns, policy violations. It adds overhead, yes. But without it, real-time systems become real-time liabilities.
Jonas, from the regulatory side, how are governments and regulators looking at this shift toward instant automated decisions?
Scrutiny is increasing, especially in Europe. For high-risk AI systems, regulators are pushing for transparency, meaningful human oversight, robustness, and strong documentation. And real-time creates a practical engineering challenge. How do you explain a decision made in 50 milliseconds? How do you give humans oversight when there are millions of decisions per day? The organizations that are coping best treat compliance as a design constraint from the start, not a problem to solve after launch.
All right. We've built the conceptual map. Now I want to ground this in real stories. Kwame, give us a case where real-time intelligence actually changed outcomes in a measurable way.
Mobile money fraud prevention in East Africa. The situation is high volume and high stakes. Millions of transactions a day, tens of millions of users, and fraud attempts coming constantly, social engineering, account takeovers, manipulation. Each fraudulent transaction that gets through damages trust. Each legitimate transaction that gets blocked creates friction and churn. So we designed a pipeline where every transaction becomes an event in a stream almost immediately. That stream enriches the event with user history, device fingerprinting, behavioral patterns, merchant risk, all computed in real time. A machine learning model scores fraud probability. We update the model regularly to adapt to new tactics. And then execution is tiered. Very high confidence fraud gets blocked automatically. Middle cases trigger extra verification steps. Low-risk transactions pass through. The really important part is monitoring. Analysts watch real-time dashboards, block rates, complaint patterns, distribution changes. They can adjust thresholds when patterns shift. The results were strong, large reduction in fraud losses and fewer complaints about friction. The key wasn't just automation. It was real-time decisions paired with real-time human steering.
That phrase, human steering, keeps coming up. Not humans approving each action, but humans guiding the system. Dr. Zhou, what about an enterprise example where decisions are still human, but the signal-to-response time changes everything?
A consumer electronics manufacturer that transforms supply chain visibility. They had a global network, many countries, hundreds of suppliers, thousands of products. Before the change, supply updates arrived weekly, often through spreadsheets. So by the time planners saw a shortage risk, the window to respond was already closing. The shift was to integrate suppliers directly through APIs. Inventory, production status, and shipment location data flowed continuously. Then streaming analytics looked for anomalies, unexpected drawdowns, delays, diversions. Each anomaly was scored for severity and likely impact. And importantly, alerting was designed to be intelligent, not noisy. It wasn't a wall of red alerts. It was prioritized guidance. This component will stop production in 72 hours, and here are plausible alternatives. Humans still made the calls. But detection went from weeks to hours, and resolution moved from weeks to days. They reduced disruption impact and lowered inventory buffers, because they no longer needed to carry as much extra stock just to compensate for ignorance.
Maria, give us a story where governance wasn't a footnote, but the thing that determined whether the project could exist at all.
Real-time credit decisioning for a consumer lender. They wanted instant approvals because competitors were already doing it. But credit is heavily regulated. If you decline someone, you often need to provide an explanation. You also have to comply with fair lending rules and data accuracy requirements. So the design started with governance constraints. They used tiered automation. Very clear approvals were automated. Very clear denials were automated too, but with compliant explanation generation built in. The middle zone, where judgment is needed, was routed to human underwriters, with AI recommendations to speed review. They also built real-time monitoring for fairness patterns. Approval rates across groups were tracked, and potential disparities triggered investigation. And every decision was logged with the data snapshot, the model version, and applied rules, so an audit could reconstruct any single outcome. The outcome was that a majority of applications became instant, but they maintained compliance and passed regulatory scrutiny because governance wasn't added later. It shaped the system from the start.
Jonas, I want the counterweight here. Tell us about a place where real-time is necessary, but ethically messy, where every design choice has consequences.
Content moderation at scale. Platforms face millions of posts per hour. Some content is clearly illegal or extremely harmful. Some is ambiguous and deeply contextual. Satire versus hate speech, reporting versus glorification, cultural interpretation differences. The moral tension is unavoidable. If you act fast, you make more mistakes. If you act slowly, harmful content spreads. And the nuance problem is real. Automated systems struggle with cultural and linguistic context, and yet the decisions shape speech and public discourse. A more responsible approach tends to be severity-based automation. Unambiguous violations can be removed automatically. Context-heavy cases get escalated to human moderators, ideally with regional expertise. Then you add transparency reporting, appeals mechanisms, and feedback loops from successful appeals back into model improvement. It's not solved, but the point is that ethics can't be an afterthought, because the system's speed amplifies both its benefits and its harms.
Now let's turn the lens around. We've talked about when real-time creates advantage. When is going real-time actually the wrong move? Dr. Zhou, what are the warning signs that an organization is chasing speed for the wrong reasons?
3 warning signs. 1. The organization can't act faster even if the data arrives faster. If decisions are still locked behind weekly committees, real-time pipes won't change outcomes. 2. The competitive environment doesn't demand it. If competitors aren't operating at high speed and the decision windows are long, real-time might not generate returns. 3. The cost of being wrong is greater than the value of being fast. Some decisions should be slow: clinical judgments, legal decisions, major strategic pivots. Real-time data can inform those, but speed shouldn't force rushed conclusions.
Kwame, what mistakes do you see teams make when they get excited about real-time?
4 patterns. First, they build real-time data streams and dashboards, but the organization still checks them once per day. So real-time data doesn't produce real-time decisions. Second, they underestimate reliability needs. In batch environments, if something breaks, you recover tomorrow. In real-time, downtime can be catastrophic, so you need redundancy, failover, and strong observability. Third, they lose historical context. Real-time tells you what's happening now, but many decisions depend on baselines and trends. You need both live streams and historical memory. Fourth, they confuse fast with correct. Speed doesn't guarantee accuracy. A fast wrong answer is still wrong, and sometimes it's wrong at scale.
Maria, what about governance-specific pitfalls?
2 big ones. 1 is treating governance as something you bolt on later. If you build and launch first and then ask how to govern it, retrofitting is painful and often incomplete. The other is importing batch governance into real-time operations without redesign. If you try to force committee approvals onto millisecond decisions, you'll either kill the system's value or you'll abandon governance completely. The answer is a different toolkit: pre-authorization, certification of logic, automated monitoring, and exception-based human review.
Jonas, what ethical traps show up once the system is running and everyone gets used to it?
3 common traps. First, automation bias. People assume the system is right because it's fast and sophisticated. Human reviewers start rubber-stamping recommendations. Second, ethical debt. Teams tell themselves they'll fix fairness, explanations, or oversight later. But real-time systems generate decisions non-stop, so the debt accumulates faster than you can repay it. Third, diffusion of responsibility. When a decision is automated, it becomes unclear who is accountable. The data scientist, the product owner, the executive sponsor. If nobody owns accountability, people affected by decisions have no real recourse. These risks can be reduced, but they require explicit design. Named owners, review processes, auditability, and consequences when ethical boundaries are violated.
We're coming into the final stretch, and I want to close with practical moves. This is our Tactical Edge segment. What can leaders do this week, not next quarter? Dr. Zhou, give us one action.
Audit your decision portfolio for speed requirements. List your 20 most important recurring decisions. For each one, ask, what is the real decision window? How fast does data arrive today? And does faster data actually change what we would do? Then invest in real time where the gap matters most.
Maria, your action.
Find one automated decision operating without governance visibility. Most organizations have at least one, a system making decisions without strong logging, without explanation, without audit capability. Pick one and add instrumentation, decision logs, model version tracking, and monitoring signals. It builds the muscle you'll need as you scale.
Jonas.
Take your most automated system and ask a simple question. Could we explain a single decision to the person it affected? If the answer is no, you likely have an ethical gap and possibly a regulatory gap. Start designing explanation capability now, even if building it will take time.
Kwame, close us out.
Measure your decision latency end to end. Pick one important process and time each step, from signal to capture, capture to insight, insight to the decision maker, and decision maker to execution. Most teams discover technology latency is only a small piece. The bigger bottleneck is organizational, handoffs, approvals, unclear ownership, and slow execution.
Let me pull the thread through everything we covered. Real-time intelligence matters when the decision window is short, when competitors already operate at speed, or when small time gains compound across many decisions. Outside those conditions, chasing real-time can be expensive theater. We talked about the spectrum of speed, from microseconds to weekly cycles, and why matching your architecture and governance to the true decision tier is the difference between advantage and waste. We laid out the core architecture: ingestion, stream processing, real-time analytics, execution, and monitoring. And we were honest that technology is often not the hardest part. The real constraint is organizational capability, operational discipline, decision modeling skill, and rapid iteration. Governance has to shift from reviewing decisions to designing decision systems. And ethics gets harder, not easier, because speed removes the moment for human intervention and amplifies mistakes. Speed is powerful. Speed without wisdom is reckless. To our panelists, Dr. Lian Zhou, Maria Alvarez, Jonas Richter, and Kwame Mensah, thank you for making this conversation real. Next week on the Intelligence Edge, we're talking about the Outcome Intelligence Engine, measuring what actually happened after decisions, and why so many analytics investments can't prove their value. I'm Nakel Nakima. Make better decisions.
Thank you, Nakel. Great discussion.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having us.